Hello everyone, Snitch Racer here, and today I will be doing the first of two vehicle tier lists for Twisted Metal 4. Since there's so many bosses in Twisted Metal 4, I've decided to split it into two videos, one for the bosses and one for the regular characters. This video is gonna be the one that's about the non-boss characters, the regular ones. Just like the previous vehicle tier list, this will be going from worst to best. So each character will be placed anywhere from the trash tier to the S tier. First of all, I just want to quickly mention that I will not be rating the created cars. There's far too many combinations of vehicles and specials to really make rating it even a possible thing. All I can really say is that overall it's a cool idea, but the specials of the created cars, they really suck. They do next to no damage and they're just not fun to use. Anyways, this list will be based on a balance of how good the character is and how fun they are to play as. So just like my previous list, if you're looking for a list that's just the objective take on how good the characters are, you might want to try a different one. I, of course, encourage people to make their own list as well. I will also be making comments on how cool some of the characters look, but that won't affect the actual score. Just a note I'll be making during the actual list. Now, this was the hardest game to rate the characters on in the series so far. One of the main reasons for this is the fact that the specials aren't very good in this game on average, or just in general. They tend to not do a lot of damage or regenerate very fast at all. To me, this makes every character less unique by default since you'll be using the specials less than the previous games. In general, it just makes a lot of the characters similar to each other. So this made it quite the challenge to find reasons to pick one vehicle over the other, but I was able to do that at the end of the day. One positive thing I want to mention about Twisted Metal 4, however, is there is a lot of interesting characters and unique specials that will keep me engaged throughout this tier list. Before we get into it, I just want to shout out my friend Pedro. He sent me some raw statistics of each vehicle and even just gave me general facts about the game and the different vehicles. This allowed me to be way more detailed in how I approach my ratings and helped me with my problem of not being able to rate them as well as the other games. So, thank you a lot, Pedro. Thank you. But now it's time to jump into this list, starting out with the trash tier. Absolute last at the bottom of the trash tier is Captain Grimm. What can I even say about this character? To me, they are the most boring, uninteresting vehicle in the entire PS1 era of Twisted Metal games, maybe the entire series. Just like in Twisted Metal 3, Grimm again is just glass and no cannon. Well, sorta, because ironically his special was literally called a cannon and is a cannon. Despite the fact that it is a cannon, it barely does any damage whatsoever, so that's why I say it has no cannon. It really does not feel like a cannon at all, more like a small shotgun blast. It does barely any damage and has an extremely tiny hitbox that can be really frustrating to get hits on. Your vehicle also goes backwards when using the special, which is a cool idea in theory, makes it more like an actual cannon, but when the special barely does any damage at all, it just looks really silly. You start out with 3 specials at the beginning of this level, but hold on to them, because just like most of the specials of the non-boss characters, it will take a full 2 minutes for a special to respawn. This makes the special even more useless than it already is. Honestly, you're just better off not using it in favor of the regular weapons. I'm not kidding. His speed is also quite slow and his handling is just okay. Adding that with the special, you can see why I find this character just flat out boring to play. Honestly, the only reason to play this character is to see his ending, which I gotta admit is absolutely hilarious. It's one of my favorites. Also, I want to comment on the fact that the iconic motorbike that Mr. Grimm usually drives is instead a boat since he's a pirate. I don't know, I think the boat car looks really ugly and it's just a really dumb idea in the first place. I don't know. I can't believe anyone would like this car, but of course, that's subjective. Overall, though, I just want to move on from this mind-numbingly boring experience. This is going straight into the mega ultra boring trash tier. Next up in the trash tier is a pretty obvious choice to anyone who's played this game before, and that's Microblast. Even from its design philosophy, this vehicle is destined for the trash tier. From a statistics standpoint, I would say that Microblast is worse than Grimm is, But the difference is Microblast is someone I actually enjoy playing as, given the fact that you can use them as a great challenge character, especially when you get more experience in the game. As for the actual vehicle itself, of course it has next to no armor. It has the same amount of armor as Mr. Grimm, which isn't very much at all. In fact, looking at it now, the entire trash tier actually is made up of vehicles that are tied for the worst health in the game. As for Microblast, though, the one advantage that he has over the other two characters in the trash tier is his size. Sure, if you actually get hit a lot, you will die pretty easily, but based on how small Microblast is, you can simply just avoid getting hit. The tracking is weird in this game, so a lot of the missiles just flat out miss even when you're not trying, and you can just, dodge out of the way. Once you get the hang of it, you'll get the process there. Of course, this isn't enough to make them easy to play as or anything. They are very much a challenge, and I would only recommend them to an experienced player, especially since that this game overall is a little too easy in my opinion. It can be great to just pick up Microblast and have a real challenge. Now, the special is kind of creative, but also not creative. Essentially, it's just a speed missile with another name, which does sound lame in theory. One thing that is unique and something that I do enjoy is the way that it spawns back. Basically, you get a speed missile every 4 seconds with a maximum output of 90. So you can save them up as much as you want till you get to that maximum amount. The one glaring downside about the special is, just like the speed missiles, you will have to freeze someone in order to use the special effectively, which of course is always tedious and to me is annoying a lot of the time. In addition to this, you'll have to actually save up maybe 50 plus specials to, kill someone in one shot. So to a lot of people, that is annoying. To me, it's a bit of a change of pace. In general, this character isn't very good at all as far as effectiveness. I wouldn't recommend it to any new player, but if you're looking for something different, this can be a fun challenge for anyone used to the game. Unfortunately, it really can only go in the trash tier though. Alright, the last vehicle in the trash tier at the very top is the bootleg version of Axel. They call him Quattro. Now, the concept of this vehicle and the character is very cool. It's a hover vehicle driven by a cyborg. Sadly though, this character is not fun at all to play, at least in my opinion. Just like the previous two vehicles, this is tied for the worst amount of health in the entire game, and just like the other two vehicles, its special is pretty lame. Quattro does actually have some okay kind of speed and some fantastic handling. This is not enough to make up for the crappy health though. As for its special, it's called Microwave for a reason. It barely has any range whatsoever and it barely does any damage. It's essentially just like Axel's special, but weaker. The only reason to use this special is to get away from danger, and even then, with the lack of range, it kind of limits this crowd clearing ability. You have to be really close. It does send people absolutely flying sometimes if you are really close, and a little lucky. Similar to pretty much every special in the game, this also does respawn after only 2 minutes, so using it as just a crowd clearing special does kind of feel like a waste. I don't even have too much to say about this character. Overall, they're pretty forgettable as far as playing as them is. They're pretty boring, but just slightly less boring than Grimm. You can also make the argument that Quattro can be quite the fun challenge if in the right mood. For me, it's kind of just meh. In general, not too much more to say, straight to the trash tier. And now on to the C tier, where we have our only vehicle with the Joneses. With this vehicle, the entire family has been packed into a station wagon and entered the competition. To me, this is a very funny idea that is made even better with the fantastic endings. The ending for the Joneses is one of my favorites in the entire series. Sadly though, that's not what we're rating today. Instead, we're rating this mid-ass car. The car itself has some pretty average to below average stats. The speed is kind of slow, but not too bad. The handling itself is pretty mid, but you won't really notice that with the slower speed, and the armor isn't very good at all. With these stats and the fact that your vehicle is actually quite big, you will be dying a little bit too easy in my opinion for a car that should be, noob friendly. As far as the special goes, it's essentially a significantly worse version of Warthog specials from the previous games. It shoots out those 3 Patriot missiles that we've become familiar with. The tracking of these missiles are pretty good, but they will miss on occasion, so they're not even a guaranteed hit like some of the other missiles in the series. Honestly though, the biggest problem with this special is it basically does no damage whatsoever. In fact, when I look at the stats here, it actually does less damage than Grimm's special does, and that special is awful. The one nice thing is you do actually start with 4 missiles, but again, this is another 2 minutes to respawn that special, so you have to be pretty selective of when to use it. One of the few positive things that I can say about this family car is it's quite easy to pick up when new at the game, helped by the fact that this game is quite easy, to be honest. Sadly though, there's very little room for improvement in that regard, so to me they're not very replayable whatsoever. Generally, this isn't a character that I enjoy being, another semi-forgettable experience. They aren't terrible though, so that's why they are the only car in the C tier. And now we're on to the B tier, where in my opinion the quality of vehicle jumps up significantly. Starting out at the bottom, we have Warthog. This really cool looking tank is tied for having the most armor of the non-boss characters in the series. A really tough nut to crack, especially in a game where the weapons do not do that much damage. Of course, because it's a tank, it's got some pretty slow speed, maybe the slowest, I can't confirm that yet. And the handling is not very good either. Honestly though, this isn't too bad considering how heavy the armor is. As for its special, it's quite divisive in the TM community. For me personally, I think it's a really fun special to use, but it's not very practical. Basically, you leave this little launch pad looking thing behind you, and then when someone is near it, you press the fire button again to detonate it. A big laser beam comes down from the sky and causes an insane amount of damage with a direct hit. It is the second strongest special of the non-boss characters in regards to damage output. You can also get more than one character at a time with it, though you will not get a direct hit on 2 or more people. You'll just do a bit of extra damage. The biggest issue with this special is that it's a royal pain in the ass to get the AI to get within range of its blast radius. Not only is the AI pathing just really weird in this game, but I swear to God that the AI knows how your special works, so they actually actively avoid it, something that's extremely frustrating at times. So either you have to detonate it really fast if someone's right on your ass, or you can use a freeze missile to hold them in place and use it that way. Of course, I'm not a fan of that. So this unpredictability of the special and how much damage you're gonna do is why a lot of people absolutely can't stand this special. I actually like it because it's fun, but I understand why people don't. Plus, to balance the damage of this special, you only start with 2 and it takes 2 minutes to respawn. So if you ever miss a shot, it is devastating. Overall, this character is very hard to kill, but their special is hard to get used to. That's why I could not put them anywhere higher than the bottom of the B tier. Next up, we have Pizza Boy, and I know what you're saying, this character is way too high up on the list, but it's the fun factor that carries this one quite a bit. On paper, their stats aren't very good, but I have an absolute blast playing as them. Of course though, because this vehicle is modeled after a 90s Honda Civic, I'm gonna be very biased towards it, no matter what I do. The health of this character is quite weak. You have the same amount of health as the Joneses. What it has over the Joneses though is that it's a lot faster and it has an amazing amount of speed. So you can actively run away and avoid getting hit by attacks if you use the character right, and driving the car around is just an absolute blast. Their special is called Pizza Blades. What it does is it shoots 2 metal blades in the shape of a pizza out the front of the vehicle. Then those pizza blades will track an enemy down relentlessly. The tracking of these pizza blades are absolutely amazing and they go very fast, so avoiding Pizza Boy's special is extremely difficult. Which is good that it has good tracking, because other than Orbital, this special has the least amount of damage output in the entire game. Also, you do start out with 4 specials, so waiting 2 minutes for a new one isn't nearly as bad as some of the others. This special in general, I think, was a bit of wasted potential. It would be way better and just way more fun to use if the special had a lot more damage, but of course that's just a problem across the game as a whole. Overall, I just have a blast zooming around as this character. Even though they are on the weak side as far as statistics go, I simply have to have them up on the B tier here because I have so much fun being them. Next up, we have Goggle Eyes, which is a vehicle I struggle to make up my mind about how I feel about them. Goggle Eyes vehicle is a bug exterminator van that has a really cool, intimidating look that makes them stick out quite a bit in this game. This van does have a solid amount of health. They are in the top half in that regard. Sadly though, it is quite slow and does not have great handling. Not terrible though. The special is called Green Tox. It shoots out gas in a way that's similar to a flamethrower. In fact, it even sets people on fire for that sweet fire damage. This special does seemingly do a lot of damage for the most part, but in my experience, it can be quite inconsistent. Sometimes it just feels like it's not even doing anything. This might be a skill issue, but in general, it's hard to tell how much damage this special even does. The one annoying thing, if you use the original hardware or use the emulator without overclocking, the special is a frame drop simulator. The frames will actually drop to like single digits while using the special, making using this character without overclocking pretty annoying. I wouldn't even recommend using them on the main game, honestly. Even going against them can cause the game to lag, so I usually go and try to kill Goggle Eyes right away if I'm not overclocking. I personally do overclock when I play for the most part, but because I'm rating this on an objective scale, I do have to take this all into consideration, and that's what brings down this character quite a bit. This character, like Warthog, only starts out with 2 specials and takes 2 minutes to regen, but because their special's not nearly as good as Warthog's, this can be quite annoying. I find this to be an odd decision by the developers. You can use this special just as often as a couple other specials in the game that do a shitload more damage. This car should have had at least 2 more specials to start. In general, this is a solid character that can be fun at times, of course annoying with the frame rate issues, but still a pretty solid choice. That's why they're right in the middle of the B tier. And coming in at the top of the B tier will be Drag Queen. Similar to Goggle Eyes, this is a character that I'm constantly changing my mind about. Sometimes I have a blast being them, and other times it's just flat out boring. The car itself, though, is very cool looking with purple paint and a giant hot rod engine, something I've always found very cool. The stats of this hot rod ain't bad either. It does have some amazing speed and some middle of the road handling. The fact that the handling actually isn't that good makes this character quite fun to drive around, as you'll be drifting around like a motherfucker. The armor itself, I would say, is right in the middle of the road, so nothing special. Now onto the special attack here. I don't find Drag Queen's special very creative whatsoever, which is literally just another flamethrower that, you know, Thumper's been using in other games and Firestarter for Twisted Metal 3. This is made worse by the fact that Super Thumper already has the special too and is in the game. This makes Drag Queen just straight up feel like a knockoff version of Thumper. Probably a huge reason why I get bored of playing them sometimes. The flamethrower is pretty good, especially for this game. It can be very powerful if used effectively. But sadly, because of the fact that the game physics are awkward and it's hard to aim weapons a lot of the time, you do simply need a freeze to get the most out of this special, which will drag its rating down a little bit. It would be nice if one day we could get a flamethrower in this series that you don't need to freeze someone for. One funny thing is that you can set yourself on fire using this special, which is also very annoying. To me, this is just a design flaw. I know people have suggested in the past that this is a balance thing. I just disagree. I feel like that's just a design flaw. In general, this is a character I just don't play that much because they can be bland at times. They, however, are quite powerful and useful in the statistics department, so that's why they are up at the top of the B tier. Alright, and at the bottom of the A tier, we have the Nuke Truck, driven by Calypso. This is Calypso's only appearance as a playable character in the series, and it is very memorable. The sheer fact that Calypso entered into the competition with a truck that can launch nukes is absolutely awesome and very distinctive. Let's talk about the vehicle itself though. As far as the non-boss characters go, it is tied for the most health with Warthog, which to me has always been funny because Calypso doesn't really feel like he has as much health as Warthog, but I have read the stats and I can confirm that he does in fact have the same health as that green tank. And the extra health is quite essential as this truck is quite slow and very awkward to drive. There's something about the way it's shaped and how long it is that'll have you, getting caught on edges, making the turns just feel weird. So the extra health really makes up for this. Of course, the best part of Calypso is his special. Like I said, it is a straight up nuclear weapon. How it works is when you press the attack button, it launches the nuke straight forward, and then when you have someone in range, you press it again to detonate it. If you make a direct hit, it does an insane amount of damage to at least one vehicle. In addition to this, it also has a small little radius around the direct hit zone that can do additional damage to anyone else that's unlucky to get in your path. So this can be very useful for getting multiple people at once. Of course, you're not going to get multiple direct hits, but you can do a crap load of damage on like 4 or 5 cars at the same time. Now, to counterbalance the sheer amount of power this special has, you will only start with 2, and then it'll take an additional 2 minutes to respawn. So you're gonna have to be careful of when and where to use it. You do not want to waste this special whatsoever. You'll feel terrible. One thing though that I'm not very satisfied with is the radius of the nuke. I know they want to make it, balanced and everything, but to me the radius should be like 10 times larger. I mean, it's literally a nuclear weapon, but it only goes like, what, 100 meters around at most? Just imagine this, imagine if the special actually took up like a third of the map. The risk reward would be so fun. It just sounds really cool to me. Anyway though, Calypso is just a solid choice for anyone. New players, old players, you'll have a great time. He's a very well balanced character and a lot of fun to use. This is why he's in the A tier. Now, the second vehicle in the A tier and at the very top of it is Meter Maid. This is the 4th vehicle in the game that's tied for the worst amount of armor. This vehicle has grown on me quite a bit since I first started getting into this game. At first, I really just didn't understand how to use them effectively. Now that I do, they're an absolute blast. Now, Meter Maid is the name of the character and the vehicle. Car is quite literally just one of those small little vehicles that a parking enforcement officer would drive, and the stats reflect this. It's the 4th vehicle tied for the least amount of armor in the game, and the only one not in the trash tier. You'll see in a second why that is. In addition to having that weak armor, the vehicle's very slow and it doesn't have very good handling. So if you're not experienced in this game, you will die very easily. But one nice thing is the special itself does counteract the weakness of this vehicle. The Omni Taser returns, and just like in Twisted Metal 3, it can grab onto multiple characters at once, which of course is great. And just like usual, it also disrupts their path by throwing them into the air, allowing you to do a bit of crowd control. On top of that, this special does something pretty amazing. Every point of damage done to an opponent is given right back into your health bar. Your special doubles as a healing item. And the great thing is, the more people you grab, the more health you gain. So an experienced player will be able to basically never die if this special is used correctly. And the great thing is, you actually spawn with 6 of these specials, which is the most other than Microblast. This of course makes the 2-minute wait a lot less painful, and essentially you'll always have specials ready if you don't overuse them. Also, you can fire the regular weapons while this special is on. And it's funny, this character is probably one of the hardest vehicles to use when you're new at the game, but also one of the easiest to use once you get used to the game. That's probably the main reason why it didn't make the S tier, is the fact that it's hard for the new player. Overall, it's a very weak vehicle that's greatly helped by a very fun special, not great for noobs, but great for the experienced players. That's why it's at the top of the A tier. Alright, and on to the coveted S tier. Honestly, all three of the characters in this tier are pretty equal. It really just comes down to personal preference as to how I've ranked them. You could pretty much interchange any of the three characters in this tier list and you're gonna have a wonderful time. At the bottom of this S tier is Trash Man. This is a straight up garbage truck that is entered into the competition just as is. Of course they have to attach weapons to it, but either way. The vehicle as a result is very slow. I think it might be the slowest vehicle in the game, I'm not entirely sure. Of course, it also has poor handling. In addition to this, the vehicle is quite big, so you'll be taking a lot of hits all the time, but of course the armor does make up for that. Trashman's health is just a little bit less than the big boys of Calypso and Warthog, so you do have a little bit of room to work with in that regard. The special, though, is where this character shines. It is essentially just another version of Mr. Slam's special. The arms at the front of his vehicle that are meant for dumpsters are instead used to grab vehicles and slam them into the ground over and over. Not very creative, that's for sure, since it's just another Slam special, but it is extremely effective. Not only does the special itself do a large amount of damage, but you can also combine it with other attacks while it's being used. When combined with the more powerful missiles in the game, you can essentially kill every single character with just one special. This of course makes it very good for speedrunning or just getting through the game nice and quick in general. Aiming this special can be a little bit awkward though, so you might want to use a freeze to make it easier, however it's not essential, unlike some of the other characters. Now, you really want to be careful when you use this special. You do not want to miss. You do start out with 4 of them, but it actually takes a full 4 minutes to respawn. That's more time than it takes to beat some of the levels in this game, so do not miss. Of course, if you're really good at this game, you literally don't even need the 5th special anyways, but either way. This character might be quite slow and sluggish, but its special's absolutely insane. That's why they only belong in the S tier. Next up in the S tier is one of 2 vehicles with extremely similar specials. This one is going to be Orbital though. First of all, this car is really cool looking to me, as it's obviously modeled after a 90s McLaren F1, one of my favorite cars of all time, and they did a great job of making it look cool in this game. Of course, because it's modeled after that car, it is extremely fast and has really good handling. In fact, to me, it just simply has to be the fastest car in the game, based on my observations. Combine that with the great handling, and this character is an absolute blast to drive around. Despite being the fastest car in the game, it actually has more health than the 4 vehicles that have the weakest health in the game. I found that interesting because usually the fastest car does have the worst armor in Twisted Metal, but that's not the case this time. Of course, the armor is still quite weak, so you do have to be careful in regards to getting hit. The nice thing is the speed and the handling does make it very easy to dodge attacks if you know what you're doing. On to the main part of the reason why this car is in the S tier, and that is their special. What it does is launch out this electrical looking orb that will grab onto any vehicle within its range and pull them right into the center of the orb. This, of course, will allow you to absolutely lay into any of the cars that are frozen, giving you a free shot at the enemy. This allows you to do some crazy combos where you can pretty much get a free kill every time you get someone within range of your special. You can also grab multiple enemies at once, allowing you to make some amazing multi-kills. Just be careful, as you can actually freeze yourself with this special, so do not waste it. You also start out with 4 of these specials, which to me is extremely generous because of how powerful this is. The fact that it takes 2 minutes to respawn doesn't even really matter if you use the special very well. If I am remembering this correctly, this vehicle does have the world record speed run, so you can just see how crazy this special can be in the right hands. Overall, Orbital essentially might be the best character in the game based on statistics. That's why they're all the way up at the S tier. They're just below first place. The only reason they don't get first is because I have a little bit more fun with the next character. And yes, that's right, it is Mr. Zombie, Rob Zombie himself, that takes the crown of this game. This to me is one of the coolest ideas in the entire series, to have Rob Zombie enter in the Twisted Metal competition feels like a match made in heaven. Or a match made in hell, I guess, in this world, but I digress. To add to the coolness of this vehicle, he's even driving a very cool looking hot rod. This hot rod does have middle of the road armor, pretty decent speed, and some mid handling. Where he shines though, of course, is his special. It essentially works the same way as Orbital's special, where it grabs anyone nearby when launched. This time, however, I do find the grabbing of the vehicles to be quite more powerful. I may be wrong, but to me that's just what I've observed. The real main difference of this special though is that instead of damaging someone, it explodes and does a small amount of damage. One could argue this isn't as good as the freezing, but to me I just simply enjoy the explosion more because I like seeing the numbers go down. I'm a simple man. And again, just like Orbital, you can combine weapons with this special, allowing you to do some amazing things. Oh, and the noise that it makes, I find very cool. Honestly, in general, I don't even have too much more to say about Zombie. They're far too similar to Orbital for me to find anything else to say about them. I just simply have a lot more fun playing as Zombie than I do Orbital. This is why they are the #1 non-boss character in the game for me. Well, that concludes my tier list for the non-boss characters of Twisted Metal 4. I really hope you enjoyed it. This was just really fun to make, and a lot more fun thanks to Pedro, so thanks again to him. I am working on the boss tier list next for this game, so stay tuned for that. I hope to have that out very soon. Other than that, if you enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe. That way you will not miss the next one. Anyways, I hope everyone has a great time, and remember to tune in next time when I fantasize about my fantasy football.